This is the BYOC Build Your Own Clone Mouse Kit. I'm very excited. It's basically a rat, and it comes with everything that you need. You get to select which knobs to use. I chose the BYOC knobs to kind of make it a little distinguished. I guess got the bear enclosure. This is a Christmas gift from my lovely wife. Thank you. We have an external nut 9-volt jack, which I guess is fine because it makes it easier to take the whole assembly out if I needed to do a mod or something like that. Comes with a foot switch. Also has a switch to go between different clipping options, which is kind of nice. So you can go between silicon, LED, and something else. Can't remember exactly what the last one was. But it comes with a PCB, mouse Rev 2.1. And then all the little components are in here, so we'll just solder them up. And yeah, I'll bring you along for some of the ride. Okay, this is not zoomed in enough, but I have laid out my resistors down here where you can't see. Right here, they're very small. Learning to read resistor codes when I have a slight green color blindness is a bit interesting. Or should I say lack of sensitivity. I can read them, but it's sometimes hard to, when you see them next to each other, it's easy to figure it out. And we're starting to populate the board with, we have the first resistor in right there, and the feet are hanging out. Okay, so the board has been populated with the resistors. They're all metal films, yeah, put them all in. There's a 47 ohm all the way up to 1 mega ohm to 1 mega ohms, and I've mostly got them placed okay. This one needs some help here. This 10K is looking funky. There we go. Mostly they're all placed right on the board. It's low power device, so I think that should be okay. Shouldn't need to lift them off the board. It's a pedal, not an amp, so we should be good to go. The next step, of course, is soldering and then clipping the legs. So we'll have to do that as well, since the underside of the board looks like that. Looks like a mess right now, so we'll have to do that later. I soldered a couple of the resistors before, family stuff, and now it's after that. Let me see if I can make this work. This is gonna be really stupid, but that's kind of helping. Anyway, I soldered some of the resistors. I still have others to go, as you can see from the ends poking out. Joints came out mostly okay. There's some, I need to make sure I angle the legs more perpendicular to the board right before soldering, because some of the ends are looking a little funky or a little too far bent over. So I might try to straighten some of those and then clip them again. I'm using lead-free solder because reasons, mostly health and safety. I also don't have a good ventilation right now, which is not good. So, but I need to keep going. I want to try to finish the pedal tonight before bed and give it a test, because that would be great. So, yeah, I'm gonna come in here with the clippers, and I'm just gonna clip off the ends a little bit more on some of these that were a little long. So I don't need to remove them ever again, hopefully. Okay, so now let's get, that's pretty decent. Ooh, why is face tracking on? I just need to get the other ones done, so let's hop to it. My helping hands, which are pretty much essential for this type of thing. Make sure this desk is a mess right now. Ho, ho, ho. So there's how it looks after the resistors are in. So let's do the next step, which is populating the diodes. So the diodes are going to go silicon, LED, and germanium. And basically on this pedal, there's a switch that'll go here on the enclosure, three-way switch is right here. That'll select between silicon diode, LED, light emitting diode, LEDs, or germanium diode clipping. So you can get standard, which is the vintage mode, LEDs is turbo rat, or Xotic diodes, which is more of a fuzz mode. So yeah. Okay, so let's populate with the diodes. So according to the instructions on page, well, this isn't a step-by-step, so I don't have to tell you anything. Long leg of the LED, because they have unequal legs, to be in this region for the autofocus now. The long leg goes in the square hole on the board, so I'm going to do that. Boom. And I probably need to make sure that the LEDs are mounted flush to the board. Otherwise, I'm a bit concerned that we'll have clearance issues. Okay, and then the diodes, we have 5 other diodes here, and this one big one goes down here, and then the bigger of the two is the germanium, bigger of the 2 pairs, and the stripe goes towards the square hole, so just need to do that. So yeah, I'm excited to test this out because for a number of reasons. I've never owned an actual rat pedal. I've played some. I've been really liking the, I know it's a bit heresy, but the Amplitube rat model was kind of fun to mess with. Good thing I'm not doing SMTs, because those are really hard. I did some SMT stuff one time at one of my internships at Intel. Some SMT soldering, and it was tough because it was so small, and I was using a microscope. Getting the diodes soldered was a little bit more of a pain. I'm not sure why exactly, but oh gosh, that one looks terrible. There's this, one of the silicon diodes is sticking up way too far. I didn't realize it until just now. That one looks funny, but maybe that's just part of it. But anyway, they were a bit of a pain. I thought I bridged these two. The silicon diodes are super close to one another, and I thought I bridged them, but then I looked at the schematic, and it doesn't matter if the pads bridge because they're connected to each other anyways on the schematic, so it doesn't matter. Anyway, well, let's move on to the caps. Okay, my bad. It's actually the IC socket. So we have the op-amp chip, and it comes with a socket. So you can solder the socket instead of the IC. So that goes in. We have our board, it goes in right there, just like that. The notch on the notch. Not really sure. I'm gonna just bend this leg just a little bit, two of them to hold it in while I flip it over and do soldering. Okay, went off pretty well. Oh, sticking up a little bit further than I wanted. Dang it. Just especially this corner. I should have bent all the tabs over. I don't know if you can see that, but he's a little lopsided. It's gonna be really hard because you can't really get all the legs. Ooh, the socket is cooking. It's not out far enough for it to be a problem, but I should have bent all the legs over. Okay, IC sockets in. Next is the single JFET. I don't remember what JFET stands for, other than I know it stands for field effect transistor, but I can't remember what junction perhaps. So that's going in the one spot that says JFET right there. We're gonna have to do some giga zooming in afterwards, so let me pre-bend the legs. So the outer ones need to go out. And then back in like that. So it's like kind of a trident shape, you know? And the flat side matches the flat side of the board, Okay, that's pretty good placement. Try to get lower down. Looks awesome. Joints are turning out fine. I'm not having any issues with the lead-free solder, which is great news. So it's less toxic to me, which I always appreciate. I should really have a fume extractor, but I don't right now, so.
Raw dog in the fumes, you know.
Okay, now it's time for ceramic discs. So we have 223, 33, a 101, a 102, 104, 332. Oh, some of them are film. There's a bunch of film caps. So those are these big boys, or small boys, really. And then we have the ceramic discs, which are these, well, these boys. Tiny little buggers. This is the 101. So let me do the ceramic disc ones first. So what I'm doing is I'm trimming off the legs because, of course, it's much easier to place a component if you can actually have something to keep it in the board. Okay, so now I need to figure out the film resist capacitors. This is a 223, so we have two of these. So I'm wondering if that truck has something to do with the, okay, that's the 332. Okay, so there's the 223s, and then 332, and then this should be a 102. 102. This says IJ100, and I don't think that's a capacitor. Uh-oh. I'm missing one. Ooh, maybe they packed that thing by mistake. Might have to call them tomorrow. Shoot. That's not good. Stand by. Okay, I had a debacle. They had a weird capacitor that was different. It had different codes than the kit provided, and it looked different. They had a 0.1 microfarad cap here, and it was supposed to look like these red ones, or at least that's what they said, but this one's actually a 0.1 microfarad cap. So thankfully, figured it out before I rattle off an email saying, you sent me the wrong stuff. So that's all good, and we got the electrolytics all in here as well. All right, good morning. Working on the mouse again, day after Christmas. We got the battery strap installed, even though I never intend to use this doohickey, but we got it installed. It's got a nice little strain relief hole right here, which is kind of hard to see. I'll have to do giga zoom in post, but yeah, it goes through these holes and then back down to the board, so that's kind of nice. We figured out the capacitor debacle, the 0.1 microfarad, the 1/10 microfarad capacitor. This is not a 1 microfarad, it's 0.1, because that big dot is actually a decimal place, not just a dot. I thought it was just a dot. I didn't think it had anything to do with decimal places. So we got the board populated. Most stuff went in okay. One of the LEDs is up a bit higher than I wanted, and the transistor's a little crooked. One of the silicon diodes is sticking up way too far. But for the most part, it looks pretty clean. It's definitely not factory passable, but it's not bad for my first. It's not the first time I've built electronic stuff, but it's definitely the first time that I've built a whole guitar pedal. So next step is to attach the wires going in and out for the input and output signal, for signal in and out. That card's misfired. For signal in and out, as well as for power in and out. So we already did the battery, but we got to do the DC jack. I'm quite excited to test this out, along with my new Big Muff that I got for Christmas. Got a Ram's Head Nano Big Muff from my mother-in-law. Thank you very much, Kim. Gift. I appreciate it. I did ask for it, but she asked me what I wanted, so I said I would like a Big Muff. Can't wait to edit this video. Not really. It's going to be a pain in my booty. I'm going to need 8 pieces. Is there enough wire to do this? 4, 3.5. Yeah, there's like 2 periods in the manual with a space in between them. I do like BYOC, but they have done some stuff where they'll like for instance the capacitor, they changed it in this kit to the different type, and I didn't realize what it was. So okay, because we need 4 for those, for the ring, and the ring goes to something else, right? So we have what does that other one go to? Okay, so that goes to the input jack. So we need these 4, and we need another 4, so then we need a little bit for the foot switch. Oh shoot, we need a bunch of pieces for the foot switch. Okay, well, we'll see if we have enough wire in this kit. I have more wire, so it's not the end of the world, but I was hoping that I could do it all one color. Okay, there's just enough, I think. And the foot switch is going to need... How long does that wire need to be? They didn't talk about that. It's just not mentioned in the kit. And 6. Okay, those are tiny, very short. I'm a little concerned about making it work for the foot switch. We will have to see. Okay, back up to the wires. Okay, I'm gonna do the stripping and the whatever stuff now. The 3.5 inches seems like an absurdly long amount for the jacks. I think I shouldn't have gone that far, because I think that they're going to be way too long to get to the... Yeah. They gave me the right amount of wire, but they told me to cut it the wrong lengths. Yeah, 3.5 inches? I don't know what they're thinking. That's like so long, because this thing's going to be right here, and it's going to there. This must be for the wrong kit. I'm going to cut these in half. Especially for the DC jack, it's like, should have been 1.5 inches. Goodness. Okay, so for anyone wondering, I'll have to make a summary of of everything that I didn't like about this kit, but I think one of the things I will say is that the wire length instructions were pretty wrong. Okay, let's solder this one in. That does not need to be longer than that. Like that's a good length right there. So I don't know. So now I have all these little. Shouldn't have chopped it all up. I should have started with this one. Ugh, lesson learned. Just do the wires one at a time. I think maybe they were left over from when the PCB would have been further away from the end or from the jacks. 3.5 inches is a lot for this. Okay, so we got some wires attached here. Let's see if we can make it show up. So, yeah, the kit called for 3.5 inches on everything, and I started with that, and then I was like, there's not very much left over for the foot switch. And then I realized that the 9 volts only have to go, like, the board's going to sit in the chassis kind of like that, right? And as you can see, you don't need 3.5 inches on these when they're going straight to here. These ones, yeah, it's nice to have a little bit more length because they're going to the jacks. They're further away. But these ones are, like, right next to this thing. So they don't really need to be that close. This, they are very close to the foot switch, right? But still, I wanted to have the foot switches pretty close to these terminals, but I still wanted there to be enough wire for those. So I'm going to use one of the longer pieces for 4 because it has to go through a couple of the foot switches, and then I need to make a jumper in between a couple of the foot switches as well. So I'm going to strip the ends of these. I found that I don't really need to pre-tin the wire. I mean, I could, but it's not super necessary. I'm also going to trim this one. It looks a little nasty. Attaching the wires is actually more difficult than the components because they don't, like, sit on the thing, you know? There's, like, more that you have to do to keep them. You really have to have the helping hands and all that business. Alright, so now we've got, this feels like an eternity later. I see why they do ribbon cables, because this sucks. Individual little wires, I really need a better helping hand. So all the wires are on, so now what we're going to do is we're going to put the POTS 3-way switch and LED on the back side, like this, and like this. And we're basically going to put them up into the chassis. We're going to put the nuts just on loosely, and then we're going to flip it over and solder. Well, we'll keep it flipped over, and then we're going to pull the board away just a little bit and solder the lugs. So I'm probably going to start with the center lug of the switch and of the POTS just to get the board level, and then we'll adjust from there. But we really need to make sure that the POTS aren't, because the bottom are metal, you know. So we really don't want the POTS shorting out everything. So I'm going to go back through, and I need to trim up the wires, the wire ends on here. But yeah, so now we have all the wires, and they didn't really talk about doing the foot switch wires, but I went ahead and pre-soldered those. So we'll have to see how easy or difficult that's going to make things for us. But all of this stuff can just stay sticking out. I really don't like that I did the battery. I should have taken that out because it's going to get in the way. But we're going to place it in the chassis, and then we're going to solder stuff. So let me scroll back to the right part of the instructions. So we've put the internal nut, or the external nut, 9-volt thing. I wish I had an internal nut one because this one sticks out kind of far, and I like the internal nuts because they don't stick out outside of the chassis as far. I could put a washer on it, to push it further back, but that'll probably be something I do later. I do want to do a modification to this pedal later to add a relay bypass so it can be soft touch instead of the chunka chunka. But I'm just starting with this as the first pedal kit, so you know. Okay, so the instructions say flip the PCB over so the solder side is up like this, and then we're going to add the LED, the status LED, which in this case I got orange, and that's going to go with the long leg and the square hole. Hopefully I did that right on all the other capacitors, otherwise that's going to be very bad. And then the 100Ks are going to go here. The 1K is going to go here for the presence control. And then I have another 100K here. The switch is going to go there. And then the last 100K goes there. So now I have to get the board, there's all this freaking hair on everything. So what happens when you live with a dog and you and your wife have long hair is there's hair everywhere. So now we're going to just gently insert. If I can get the plastic pots to line up. Where's this other one at? Ugh. See, that's the problem with these ones on the edge. They have no support, so I have to be really careful about. Be really nice. Well, I would prefer probably if I were designing my own pedal line, I would probably have them such that the oh no, everything came undone. Ah. Good, we're getting some of this on camera. You can see, watch the struggle bus. Because these ones are supported really nicely, but the other two, not so much. Hopefully all my solder joints are good. Hopefully none of the caps got put in the wrong way. I'm pretty sure I got all of them right. See, now I'm out of fingers here. Where's that switch at? It's tipped. Thing's cross-eyed. Come on, get in there, presence pot. Okay, we got everything in except the LED. Oh, the LED's in too. Okay, so everything's in the chassis. Make sure everything's pulled out all the way. Okay, okay, we snapped off the tab on the one pot. So all the pots can sit flush. And then guide it in and then secure it by screwing the washers and the nuts. Very delicate, and I see why people do the separate PCBs now for the potentiometers. That way they have a jig or something to solder the pots to the board, and then what you can do is, instead of doing this is the tedious part, is the wires. Getting the little components on, piece of cake, but this step is definitely a lot more difficult. Because you have to like suspend everything sideways and make sure the board don't fall off. It's a balancing act. Really what they could do is you have alignment holes for, really the best way would be to have, you know, a separate, you have a jig that looks like the pedal but doesn't have walls, and then but it has the holes in the exact same spot. The problem is that the holes are never exact. That's the tough part of this. So we'll have to lift the board up slightly trying to get it such that I'm trying to twist it a little bit so it's kind of straight in there. We'll have to lift it so that the we're really sitting high enough off. We don't want to be touching anything, in my opinion, because that's bad. Okay, looks like we'll have just enough wire for the switch. Holy smokes, that's tight. That's going to be very close. So we'll have to see about that. Okay, so now we'll need to solder all of them and tighten the nuts and don't burn anything, any of that business. So this is fun. This battery strap. But that's the reason why is because it's kind of misaligned. So that's why they have, the holes on the outside aren't done the best. So okay, let's get the soldering. There's almost not enough pot leg. Let's start with the presents. Soldered the components down, so hopefully nothing's touching. The pots seem to be well off the board, so I might try taking it out one time quickly. I just want to see what's going on, I'm just curious on how it looks underneath. Just want to make double sure. Ooh, the board's really slanted down on this side. Crud. I might have to make an adjustment. Oh, I'm really worried about the distortion and the level pots having touched the PCB. Crud. Screw me, that would be very bad. If for some reason there's a problem, I could insert some plastic or something in between. No, we're good. We're way off. Yeah, it's just a bit annoying that the yeah, look at that. Okay, so we were a long ways. The switch, if anything, was the limiting factor, but it's definitely not it's definitely not the most level thing in the world, but it's not too bad. It's just these front ones could have gone down further, but I let it rock back a little bit. But there's a long ways. The switch thankfully was stopping anything from hitting stopping the pots from hitting the board. So okay, that's good news. Maybe I could push it down on the front, but oh, let me clip the LED leads off. Those are they're sticking way out. Okay. Trim that other one just a wee bit more. There we go. Alrighty-roo. Let's go back in, tighten everything down. Alright, now comes the hard part. Is going to be soldering all these little buggers to the things. So let's put in the jacks. Actually, I'm going to solder in the wires for the power jack, because that's very far down there. It's going to be a pain in my booty. Maybe I should also I could start with the switch as well. The switch, this one has to go through 4 and then all the way across. Man, this number 4 is so long. So most of it's pretty good, but there's this one wire that's just kind of hanging. It's sticking so far up, it's gonna like run into the lid. That's pretty good. That's not bad. It's looking pretty nice. Okay, now comes the tough part of the DC jack, which is going to be awful. So we go plus to the very outside one. Oh, frick. I've soldered the wrong wire. Okay, out we go. Dang it. That sucks. Ooh, and that one's gonna melt. Yeah, it already did a little. Crud. Grab the wrong wire. You know it. You go over here. It's this one's job to go in here. Just really make sure it's not a cold joint. Okay, now it's correct. Whew. Yeah, I have a newfound respect for pedal manufacturers because this is not easy. This kind of sucks. It's a lot harder than I thought it would be. Just the clearances are, and this isn't even like, no. The jack is like running into the board. That's the only way it fits. So it's like hitting a resistor that way. Okay, I might have to do some origami in here. Ah, this sucks. So basically the jack is like, if you orient it the way they said, I put the board too high, and so it's gonna run into the resistor. So, dang it. Ah. I might try to melt the solder on the presence pot and try to get a little more clearance for myself, but I might have screwed myself over here. So, update. I need to update the camera. What happened? Basically, I just heated up the legs of the presence and the tone pot and just forced the board down enough to get the jacks in. So the jacks are in. The clearance is not very good. One of the lugs of this is like almost touching one of the resistors. But it's not quite touching. And again, low voltage, so we're not worried about arcing or anything like that. This wire came out, the output wire. Ooh. Is it moving the joint around? Not sure I got a great joint on that. And then I need to connect this ground wire as well, and solder the rest of the ring for the power on. And then I did have to reorient the jacks a little bit different than the instructions, so yeah, but I think it's going to be okay. So these are literally the last joints to do, and then I just need to install the IC into the board, which is hanging out right here, the famous LM308AN op amp, infamous perhaps. So I'm going to try to solder everything in, and it's gonna be all good. So I thought it was gonna be pretty bad because the pots were really just, there was not a lot of room to really get to work with, but we figured it out, more or less, one way or another. Who sang that song? Was it Blondie? I don't think it was. It sounded way like brattier than Blondie. One way or another, I'm gonna get ya. I'm gonna get ya. Okay, I need to trim this. Crap. I need to trim this wire because it's way too long. Okay, output jack is soldered. Now we got to do the input. Just a little bit more tight clearance wise, but we'll make it work. This is not for the faint of heart, I'll tell you what. Or faint of whatever. Okay, so it's not the cleanest wiring job in the world, but I'm going to bend this around the IC. I'm going to lasso the capacitors there. Just have to bend stuff in such a way where it's not going to be in the way, you know what I mean? This one's a little tough. Okay. Look at that, gut shot. Okay, I'm going to switch, take a pause here, take a photo, and then I'm gonna, oh, let's do the last step while we're on camera. So we get the op amp right here, and we're gonna insert it into the socket. And that's good because you don't want to do a non-socket install of the op amp. Ooh, the legs are just a little bit too far apart. Very gentle, don't want to break them. Yeah, look at that. Op amp's in. Woohoo! Man, I'm bummed I burned one of the wires. Okay, look at that. Door's closed. It closes. That's a good sign. Knobs are turning. Switch doesn't turn, you know. So let's put the screws on the back and actually I don't want to put the screws on the back yet. I want to test it first, but let me put the knobs on. Shut the iron down. Really? Okay, knob 1. Let me just make sure all the knobs are in the same spot, or the pots, that is. Look at that. Tone and presence. I'm interested to see how the presence knob adjusts everything. I've heard the manual says it's a fine tuning for the filter control. So we'll see. Maybe it's another way to adjust the top end sizzly kind of response without resorting to winding the filter up too much. Should get a dry erase marker and write what the knobs do so that it's sticky. Got a big burr on it. All knobs on 10. Okay, so this is, now it's done. So let me, let's give it we got to fire it up and give it a test. So the knobs are tone, presence. We can go between vintage, LED, and germanium diode clipping with level and distortion. So let's start with everything distortion all the way. I'll do 9 o'clock, level at noon. I want the tone off, and then the presence I'll leave at noon. So let's plug it in, get going here. Let's see if it turns on first. So let's add power. Nothing, because there's nothing plugged into the jack. Where did that patch cable go? Oh, that's not good. Is this plugged in still? Yep, it is. I swapped the input and the yeah, okay. I made a mistake. I found it already. The input, this wire and this wire are switched. So this one needs to go over there and this one needs to go here. Okay, found the problem. Let's fix it. Fire the iron back up. I knew I was going to make one mistake at the end there because I was a little frustrated. And I've burned the jack. Great. That's not going to go away. Ugh. Oh, it stinks too. One of those. Okay, that'll do. Pig, that'll do. Okay, we got an input. Hey, there we go. Lights on. Okay, so at least it's powering, which is good. Okay, let's hook it up. Okay, so we got the mouse all hooked up. I'm running through my pedal board through the UA Dream. Let me turn this bad boy off. Got my Telecaster with American Original 52, American Pure Vintage 52 pickups. One of those. They used to be the Fender 50s Tele pickup. I think they just rebranded them as Pure Vintage or Original or something. I think it's been a couple things. And the UA Dream with the greenback, little extra bass, little extra trebles stock, no boost. Yeah. Let's turn this down. We're gonna be on the. Let's just open the tone control, leave presence at noon, volume at noon, drive off. That's killer. That's so good. Okay, so after some hours of assembly time, I think it probably took a good 5 or 6 hours to assemble this from start to finish. Which isn't bad for my first pedal. I wish I did it quicker, but I mean, you know, it's not terrible. It came out pretty good. There were a few things I've learned, and but let me talk about the sound real quick. Sounds great. There's some big differences between the modes. There's 3 modes on the clipping. You have silicon, LED, and germanium diode clipping. So we have the filter control, presence control, level, drive, and then clipping options. So the original Rat would have had 1, 2, 3, would have had these 3 controls, and these 2 would not have been there. The silicon diode clipping is most like the original Rat, the standard Rat. And then you can go to LED, which is like the turbo Rat, and it uses these 2 LEDs on the back, and I'll insert a clip of those flashing in response to the guitar playing. What I would really like to do is connect these 2 to 4 wires, and then draw a rat on here and drill 2 holes for the eyes and make the eyes light up as I'm playing in the LED mode. That would be so sick. But that's probably something for later on down the road. But that would be really cool if we could do that. So someday I might do something like that. For the most part, I did scrape off a little bit of the mask, the PCB mask down in there in that corner with the helping hands. These guys, the ones without the rubber, got the board, or a few nicks into the board. The wires, I should have trimmed this one, this number 4 wire shorter. It's a bit long, as you might be able to tell. I think these wires could have been way shorter, the ones for the jacks, but it's a pretty tight squeeze around here, so I made do with what I could. The wires for the DC jack could have been a little shorter, but I think it's a nice amount of strain relief, and they're not sticking out extraneously. I did melt the end of this wire, but the main thing I learned was get the PCB in lower. You need to figure out how much clearance you need to have between the top of the PCB and the jacks. I didn't realize how deep the jacks were going to stick in. I kept thinking, in my mind, I'm most used to these kind of jacks, right, that don't stick it in very far, right? So I could have switched to this, a Switchcraft one, instead of using these black ones, but I wanted to use the original ones to make it work. So I squished the board down a little bit. I just pushed down on it super hard, not too hard, but pushed down on it, and then heated up the joints one by one to try to get things going. I would like to, if I could do it all over again, obviously I wouldn't have done that. I would have waited to cut the wires and not cut them the length that BYOC said. They said cut 4 wires 3.5 inches long, but the problem is that you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 wires that need to be cut from the purple wire. And I made it work in the end, but there's definitely like a lot of little leftover pieces, and 3.5 inches is absurdly long for this, so I don't know what happened in their manual. I did melt the edge of that jack, which I'm not proud of, but you know, on the outside, the inside, it's not the best workmanship in the world. Sound wise, I'm really loving it. The 3 clipping diodes are pretty distinct in terms of the 3 clipping modes are quite distinct in terms of their volume and their character. The LED is predictably, let me angle this up. The clipping modes are pretty distinct in their sound. But they're also quite, you know, they have that kind of rat character where it's kind of got that unfiltered kind of aggression in the top end that's pretty, you know, rat-like. So it's a great sound. It's definitely not a tight modern distortion, but I'm excited to put it on my pedal board and run my SD1 into it, and I think that's where I'm going to get a little bit more tightness. I could get a little bit more tightness out of it. And all of that. It has room for a battery. I really don't think I'm ever going to use the battery clip. I think that the battery clip is kind of silly in today's day and age. I'm not a battery pedal person. I guess if you're a vintage fuzz nut, if you're kind of a fuzz guy, I'm worried about this though. I'm worried that the battery thing is going to like short everything out. But I'm going to tuck it in there like this. That way it doesn't move like so. But yeah, there's plenty of room in the bottom, so I'm excited to do the relay bypass mod someday, but it's going to be a pain in the butt to get all of those diddly little wires out. And then I'm pretty sure you have to do something else to it too, but maybe you have to mess with that LED one. Let me get a screwdriver. All right, let's put the back plate on and finish her off for now. So, got the back plate here. Right, nice. And let's do it on camera here. Perfection. Not going to be touching nothing. It's it's not the best fitting back plate. They could have filed down the corners a little bit more, but again, $79-80, not even $100 for this kit. Came with everything you need. Instructions were could be a bit refined, but overall, it's a really fun process. I thought the hard part would be the small components. Nope, it's the wires and the pots, getting everything to line up right. At the end is kind of one of the harder pieces of the story. But, we did it. And it's got top-mounted jacks, which I'm a big fan of. The external nut doesn't look as nice on the power jack as an internal nut would. But the plus side is that I don't have to desolder anything to take it out. So that's a big win for repairability in my book. I had the wrong screwdriver. So yeah, we're buttoning it up. And we can call this a win. My first pedal I've ever built. All the way from... Well, it had a PCB and instructions, but still, that's pretty cool, I'd say. I'm quite pleased. And, yeah, so shout out again to my lovely wife, Cambria. I love you for getting me this at my request. She asked, what do I want for Christmas? And I said, I want this exact pedal kit with the orange LED and the doodads. I'm definitely going to do another one. I kind of want to try the Klon or the King of Tone would be really cool, or the Blues Breaker one. I think I might try the Boss Blues Driver would be really fun. They have one for the Blues Driver. But yeah, the mouse was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this kit. And, it's only it's less than $100 for this kit. And it's really, if you have a soldering iron and you've been doing guitar repair like I have, just pots and things like that, pedals really are fun to get into. And, man, this was a blast. So I'm super excited for the next one. And I'm super excited to use this pedal for years to come. I cannot wait I'm going to stick it on my board right after this, and give it a good shake. So, all right, see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, comment. Do whatever you do. If you have a friend who plays guitar or who likes electronics, share this video with them if you want. I'd greatly appreciate it. A lot of people who watch these videos just come in and they watch and then they leave. Take a look at my channel. See if there's another video you'd like to watch. YouTube's going to recommend one right here. But yeah, thanks for sticking around. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.